Introducing The News. In this video, we will be analysing one of Singapore's most popular comedy shows in the 2000s. Produced by Mediacorp Channel 5, The News features newsworthy local and regional events involving Singapore, along with social, cultural and political concerns in the country.
The News is a parody of regional news programs that presents made-up news stories with various actors and actresses portraying newscasters, field reporters, and interviewees. Did you know that the title of the show The News is actually a play on the word news based on the stereotype of how Singaporeans pronounce the word news? Aside from the playing of words, The News also engages in translanguaging, where the characters access and mix different linguistic features and languages from their unique repertoire to communicate with the audience. Despite the show gaining popularity over the next few years for its humorous portrayal of different characters relating to Singapore, it also received criticism for evoking race, social class, and language stereotypes. Whether done for humorous effects or not, many individuals believe that stereotypes in the media regrettably serve to strengthen our prejudices towards people who look, speak, or behave differently.
We are not happy because ever since the government announced the
Aside from stereotyping, some of the characters display overt attitudes as well. As seen in this scene of an episode, one of the characters was outright and explicitly revealing her unhappiness with one of the government's policies.
Sentosa take pictures, right, Terry?
Yes.
In this video, we will be focusing on the social linguistics aspects of the portrayal of three characters as well as the language used in the show. Let me introduce the first character, Jojo Jojet, a Malay field reporter. Jojo's name is based on the Jojet dance that he often mimics when signing off. The second character is Leticia Bongnino, a Filipino domestic helper. Leticia is known for speaking with a stereotypical Filipino accent and greeting the audience as sir and ma'am. The third character is Barbarella, the president of the Singapore SBG's club. Barbarella speaks with a pseudo accent, which is a mixture of American and Singlish, and is obsessed with Caucasian men.
The first character we'll be delving into is Jojo Joget from The News. Jojo Joget's character adds an interesting layer to our sociolinguistic analysis. Jojo Joget, a character whose name itself is a play on the Malay Joget dance, is a fascinating case study in sociolinguistics. First, let's examine his name, Jojo Joget. It's not just a name, it's a linguistic wink. The Joget in Jojo Joget playfully alludes to the Malay Joget dance, a cultural gem from the Malay archipelago. But why stop at dance? Jojo's linguistic mastery goes beyond his name. It permeates his entire character. Jojo doesn't just dance around the boundaries of language. He dances right through them. He's a master of code mixing, where he artfully blends linguistic units from different languages within his speech. And he doesn't shy away from sprinkling Malay references into his conversations. Let's break it down. Code mixing is like a linguistic smoothie. It's when you blend words or phrases from different languages into a single sentence or utterance. Jojo takes it to the next level even with his name, which is a delightful mix of Malay and English. As he engages in his news reporting, he code switches across English and Malay, which involves the practice of mixing languages across sentence boundaries. In some linguistic contexts, there's a concept known as linguistic purism. This idea suggests that languages should only be used in their pure form. Mixing pieces of different languages can sometimes be viewed as efficient, corrupted, or distorted by purists. However, Jojo Joget fearlessly challenges linguistic purism. He's all about embracing language mixing as part of his humor and identity, adding a pinch of spice to the language scene. According to research by Ying Ying Tan in 2018, it becomes evident that code switching is not just a playful twist in comedy. It's a living reality in the Malay-speaking community. Tan's research reveals that in everyday conversations, both young and old members of the Malay community regularly tap into the additional language as a linguistic resource. In fact, they code switch interessentially at least 80% of the time. This underscores the ubiquity of code switching in their interactions. Thus, when Jojo Joget code mixes and code switches, he's doing more than just tickling our funny bone. He's a linguistic reflection of the multicultural, multilingual fabric of Singapore, showcasing how language can be a bridge rather than a barrier both in real life and on the comedy stage. Hence, Jojo Joget exemplifies how The News creatively integrates code mixing and code switching, challenging traditional notions of linguistic purism. This character adds an exciting layer to our analysis of language in the show.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. My name is Leticia, and I am a caricature of Filipino foreign domestic workers in Singapore. This portrayal in the news has exaggerated speech patterns and intonations and reflects the Singaporean view of the Filipino accent, while her interactional behaviour shows foreign domestic workers to be submissive and nurturing, eager to serve and content with a lower class identity pushed upon them, which are social attitudes about their role in Singaporean society. While nominally being portrayed as an unsung hero, Letitia is shown as ignorant and well suited to her role. Despite her grievances with the employer, she avoids confrontational interactions or assertive behaviour that threaten her employer's positive face, and happily infantilizes her employer's 32-year-old son.
No, Letitia, this is not right. Your employer should not keep your salary.
Even when her own dignity and autonomy are undermined, she essentially goes along with it. She has to be informed about her rights by those of higher social standing, and even having re-established her autonomy, she is satisfied with a stereotypical lifestyle indexing strong affiliation with this perceived subgroup, such as eating at a Filipino fast food outlet Jollibee with fellow domestic workers, and upgrading her stereotypical wardrobe of t-shirt and slippers. Letitia's iconic accent and use of vocatives are also worth noting. She uses exaggerated Filipino speech patterns, and her catchphrase, "Kiss my poet," is atypical of actual Filipino speech, where the lexifier language would be English, but the source of syntactic conventions would be Tagalog or other languages spoken in the Philippines. As such, the possessive "my" would not be likely to appear before the Tagalog poet if it was an authentic case of code mixing. The use of Filipino in this instance thus seems more gratuitous and designed for the ease of Singaporean audiences' understanding. Also, as Carissa mentioned, she calls everyone mum and sir, even though she does not respect, such as her employer's friend Helen, while generally referring to herself by name rather than by the pronoun I, which is reminiscent of infant-directed speech. Letitia's relationships also reflect an othering of guest workers in Singapore, like her romantic relationship with Terry, a Bangladeshi construction worker, and her friendships with Rosa and Lolibeth, who are fellow domestic workers. This implies that her social network is only appropriate when consisting of her fellow foreigners, and perpetuates and entrenches perceived differences between races and classes in Singapore. This implies there is or ought not to be linguistic mobility or contact across social contexts. This representation is used to impose local versus non-local categorizations, according to Mai Hiramoto. An attempted defense is that these stereotypical jokes are merely representing society. But while local varieties and stereotypes are used to promote solidarity and local identity, this mock Filipino suggests foreigners or even inability to conform. Ultimately, this is a fairly self-aware appropriation of quotes for satire for a majority Chinese population, and despite that being done under the guise of humour and diversity, such representation feeds into existing stereotypes about this particular minority in Singapore.
Lastly, we'll be looking at Barbarella, a lady living what seems to be an extravagant and glamorous lifestyle in Singapore. By dissecting the references she typically makes, we can get an insight into what she attempts to portray herself as.
Hello everybody!
Firstly, the most obvious trait would be the use of a pseudo-accent, where she mixes both an American and Singlish accent together.
As the president of the Aspergers, I feel that actually not all Angmos are snobbish. Only most of them.
She adopts a more nasally tone compared to her other counterparts, where she acts as if she is of a higher class or social standing.
Like Perth or Melbourne, then there'll be no more Orchard Towers. Or worse, no more Holland Village.
This is emphasized by her clothing and accessories, styled to be showy and flashy, and the location of her sets, typically in what Singaporeans think to be rich areas. This is most prominent in how Holland Village is her personal favourite spot. Located in the Holland Bukit Timah area, the location indexes a sense of wealth and prestige, being known for its dining and shopping culture. This being Barbarella's filming spot and favourite reference, indexes her as someone of high class and social standing. She is also known to be Angmo crazy, where Angmo would be the Singaporean slang of the Hokkien word to refer to Westerners. Interestingly, this is one of the few times where she deviates from the use of English in her conversation. In this clip, she can be seen talking about both Holland Village and Angmos yet again, and even excuses the robber on the basis of his nationality. This gives insight into what Barbarella believes. The privilege that comes with being a Westerner is enough to absolve one of their crimes, and that it was impressive he managed to pull such a feat off. It is then no wonder why Barbarella attempts to pass as an Angmo too, wanting to tap into said privilege. However, there are parts where Barbarella fails to maintain that image. The most obvious one is through the use of slang like Angmo. Next, her more ditzy nature is highlighted in how she's unable to articulate words properly in standard English. Lastly, her accent is not a true perfect replica of a true American accent, thus showing how Barbarella attempts to shape her identity through speech, location, and clothing, all in an attempt to pass as a Westerner.
And with that, we have come to the end of our video. Thank you for tuning in into our analysis of one of Singapore's most famous comedy shows, The News.